Okay, we're about 2 minutes in here. Thanks to the Beatles. All right, and thanks to all of you for joining us today. So let me see. Thank you for joining. All right, so let's get started. Richard, you ready? All right, dude. Thanks for joining today's Live on ServiceNow webinar to seamlessly deploy ServiceNow for Microsoft Teams. Before we get into things, let's take a quick look at our safe harbor statement, safe harbor notice. Please take a few minutes to review it. This notice indicates any statements regarding functionality that's not generally available today represents a plan and not a promise. If we happen to talk about any such functionality, that should not be relied upon to make a purchasing decision. So please keep that in mind. Also, Richard, if you could check the Q&A for us while we're getting ready here, I'd appreciate it. So today's session is part of the Live on ServiceNow curated event series. It's designed to connect you with ServiceNow experts and peers that can help you deploy and achieve value faster. We hope that you'll join us for another webinar or meetup, and you can see the schedule here by scanning a QR code or the link that it will be dropped into the chat. Thanks, Richard, for that. Awesome. Okay, moving on to a little bit of housekeeping. So for this webinar, we ask that you utilize the Q&A functionality. We've saved time at the end to address questions as they come up, but please drop any questions that may occur to you at any point during the session, and Richard or I will attempt to respond to it. This presentation is going to be recorded and shared on the ServiceNow community. We'll also be able to put some additional content on that same page within the community. So please do visit that after the session to see the recording and any other reference materials or answers to questions that we don't get to today. After the event, we'll be prompting you for a survey response. So please take a moment to fill it out. Let us know how we're doing, how we can improve. We want to make sure that these sessions provide as much value for you as possible. All right. Okay, on to introducing our speakers. I'm the guy on the left. My name's Jeff Fox. I've been a product manager here at ServiceNow for more than a year and a half. And in that time, I've been dedicated to the ServiceNow alliance with Microsoft, and most specifically to this Teams integration. I write some of the documentation for us on a go-to-market basis. I present to customers in a session like this. Also do a lot of enablement for our sellers and our partners and other internal teams. I also conduct our quarterly release programs, amongst other things. I really love speaking about this topic and enjoy laying out the value of the integration for customers and really seeing how customers can take advantage of this functionality. So this is right where I want to be right now, and I hope that you get a lot of value from our presentation. I should also note for you that I'm the host for today, and so any technical difficulties that we may experience, I request your patience if such an occurrence should arise. And I'm thrilled to be sharing the virtual stage with one of our finest advisory solutions consultants, Richard Norton. Richard, do you want to take a moment to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Jeff. Hi, my name is Richard Norton. I am a senior advisory solutions consultant for the Microsoft Alliance. I've been in the ServiceNow ecosystem for over 10 years, expanding my knowledge from the technical all the way through the sales. So I'm really excited to be here. I'm happy to be part of the Microsoft Alliance and focusing on those Microsoft products and services. Thanks a lot, Jeff.
Yeah, thanks, Richard. All right, our first technical difficulty. All right, coming up. All right, let's start off with the poll, and I'm going to attempt to launch the poll. Okay, so hopefully you see this on your screen now. We'd like to understand where you are today in your journey to integrate ServiceNow with Teams. Really want to understand if you've done anything at all yet, if you're still learning about it, trying to figure out exactly what to do. Maybe you're in testing, maybe you're in prod. So please take a couple minutes to let us know. Appreciate seeing so many responses. Thanks, Corey, VA and Teams. Awesome. Okay, thanks to the overwhelming feedback. This is fantastic. Okay, I think we're kind of holding steady now, so I'm going to end the poll here. And what I'm seeing is that for a few of you, this is your first time to hear of the integration. got a lot of people, 58% still gathering information. You've come to the right place. We've got a lot of great information to share with you today. Few people, 10% in testing, 5% planning for your prod rollout, and 14% currently in production. That's awesome. Thank you so much. Okay. So regardless of where you are, we believe our presentation and the demos that Richard's going to do for us today will provide an invaluable set of details to aid in your journey, regardless of where you're at. So let's start out with understanding why leverage ServiceNow inside of Microsoft Teams, and what's the benefit here. The why is really around the fact that, and I'm going to jump off camera here for this portion if I can. Well, or not, I guess I'm on video. After talking with multiple customers over an extended period of time, we have heard some pretty consistent feedback that pretty consistent theme that organizations are pressed to provide a better experience and more efficiency. Almost all of these customers really consider this a mission critical objective. And it's mission critical because of the proliferation of applications that have created this common challenge around managing multiple experiences. Employees and agents have to wrestle with email, chat, portals, any number of different applications. And this creates stress as they're constantly toggling between these applications for information or because of a notification. And this is not only stressful, but it's inefficient. And navigating to so many places for information just isn't a good use of time. These experiences, they're not perfect, and sometimes information can just be missed altogether. Think about all the notifications and email items that you might get during a typical day, between leadership announcements, launch announcements, other announcements, open enrollment, for example, and reminders to complete training, any number of things, right? They can all be a bit of a distraction and send you to a different location that can take you out of your flow of work. And it's easier to understand why these challenges are so important to solve when you dig into the numbers. According to McKinsey, they estimate 20% of employee time is lost searching for information to complete tasks and workflows, right? That's a pretty big number. Harvard Business Review, they report that 9% of time is lost trying to reorient to a task after visiting a new application. And I think about having multiple browser tabs open in multiple windows. And if I have to go somewhere to conduct an activity, sometimes it takes me a while to find it. And then once I'm there, I might need to remember what I went there for in the first place. So I definitely understand that toggle tax. And then finally, Gartner reports that 43% of employees miss important information because they just have too many applications open. Wouldn't your organization be more efficient if employees and agents didn't have this same struggle? And this is where the ServiceNow and Microsoft Teams integration really comes in. The integration provides efficiency by seamlessly weaving ServiceNow and Microsoft experiences into natural workspaces. So with a seamless experience, you get happier employees. It doesn't feel like ServiceNow or Microsoft Teams. It's a single experience for both agents and employees. This increases productivity because the integration between Microsoft Teams and ServiceNow brings notifications, information, and action into a single place. Finally, the integration optimizes collaboration. Good things happen when you take a world-class collaborative software and weave it directly into world-class workflow software. So let's go a little deeper to see how the different stakeholders benefit from this integration. And let's start with the CIO. CIO wants to be sure that they're maximizing their strategic investments that they've made around efficiency, collaboration, and experience. From a service owner's perspective, they want to make sure that they can alert employees to outages and quickly bring experts onto a Teams bridge for streamlined collaboration and resolution. For agents, they really want to assure that employees and experts in Teams, they can reach employees and experts directly in Teams from ServiceNow. And then on the employee side, they don't have to leave their natural workspace in Teams when it comes to requesting service, finding answers, or providing information to agents. That can all be done right in Teams. So to tie this up, let's talk about how we drive efficiency through the experience. There are really 5 app experiences that will show off the integration for employees and agents. First off, we've got Employee Center, where employees can request service, review their tasks, search KB, and other ServiceNow content all directly inside of Teams. Next, we have our virtual agent, where employees can self-serve with automated workflows to access knowledge base articles, any other content you may have in ServiceNow, as well as transfer to a live agent chat, all within Teams. Service Operations Workspace really helps agents to further reduce their mean time to resolution by enabling them to invoke Teams notifications, conversations, and conferences all from within ServiceNow. Major Incident Management is a service that helps service owners get their service back up and running by automating Teams calls from inside ServiceNow. And then finally, we have agent to employee chat, which enables agents to reach out to employees directly in Teams from ServiceNow. So this is the functionality. If there's an incident or a case, you can just click a button and kick off a Teams chat. So it's great that these options are available, right? But for those of you who have still to enact the integration, which I think was 58%, how exactly do we do it, and what do we do first? Right. So when you do your due diligence on the integration, you'll see that one of the first steps is to determine whether or not to use our pre-published application or use a self-configured app. And these are considerations to really go through. And I should mention that we recommend going through this pre-published app first. It's just going through the bullets here. The pre-published app is ready to set up. It is owned by ServiceNow within Azure. You can support multiple tabs. So if you want to use Virtual Agent and Employee Center together inside of Teams, that is supported here. A limitation, though, is the use of proxy to enable the communications between ServiceNow and Azure, which basically means you need one Azure tenant to one ServiceNow instance. And so if you have multiple instances or multiple tenants, this may not be the best option to complete the integration. And then on the self-configured app side, this is really a customized app that your organization would create. Requires a good amount of expertise on Azure. It does need to be maintained by the customer, but it also supports multiple instances to a tenant. So I think that's it. Richard, you live and breathe this every day, though. I'd really like for you to kind of come in here and add on to give folks a better idea of what to look at for these options.
Yeah, Jeff, happy to come in and dig a little bit deeper on this. So the pre-published app and self-configured app can be a little bit confusing when you're first introducing yourself to the integration. So something to keep in mind, your easiest route is going to be that pre-published app. This really only requires Microsoft admin credentials in order to get the integration up and running. Now, the self-configured app is going to be much more than that. You'll have to not only configure the app and the manifest, but also configure security and those things inside of your Microsoft tenant. So it does take a bit more setup. Now you might be thinking, hey, we want to connect multiple to multiple. How do we do that? And it's really pretty simple. You start off with that pre-published app in your production environment, get that easy setup going. Now, if you want to connect dev or test or a QA environment or other ServiceNow environments to that same Microsoft tenant, you would utilize that self-configured app configuration. So you would use the pre-published app as your primary and then bring in those secondaries for your sub-production instances in order to tie that architecture all together. Now, that's not always required in everybody's environment. So, this integration is really designed to help you guys build at a scale, and we'll get a little bit deeper into that. But I do want to take you guys through the manifest and kind of how we control that really quick. So, Jeff, I'm going to take over control from you.
Awesome.
All right. Let me go ahead and get sharing here. So on your screen here is we have the ServiceNow manifest generator. Now, a manifest inside of ServiceNow, generating this manifest, that's generating the Teams app for your Microsoft Teams tenant. It gives you all the data you need. And you can configure that right here inside of ServiceNow. So we're looking at the first page of this Microsoft Teams manifest. It allows us to modify the name, the description, the short description. We can change the colors We can also introduce our own images. So you don't have to have the ServiceNow branding on your app. You don't need to call it ServiceNow for Teams. You can call it Alexa, Siri, Frank, whatever you want to call it. You can also add your own images to that. So you don't have to have, again, the ServiceNow branding. You can introduce your own branding. Now, as you click through the manifest here, we do have some more options. So configuring the virtual agent. We have connecting to a single ServiceNow instance. Now, if I already had this type of connection, I would come down and connect multiple ServiceNow instances. So I already got prod connected with this single instance, and I want to connect dev. I would check this box down here when I want to connect dev or test or a QA environment. So the next one is our configure tab. So this allows us to have different tabs, and I'll show you what that means inside a team. So inside of our app, we're going to have different tabs. On one of those tabs, we're going to embed our employee center. So if your organization's not using employee center, you also have the capability of embedding your service portal here. There's no additional configuration you need to do for your employee center or service portal. It's going to automatically bring all those form, fit, and features you've already set up for your portal. It's going to bring that directly into Teams. And last but not least, we got the Ready tab. And what this does for you is it creates these files. So your manifest JSON, that's the file that you're going to import into your Microsoft tenant in order to create that Teams app. And you also have full control over this manifest. Let's go ahead and get it open really quick so you guys can have a look at it. It is a JSON record, something your developers should be familiar with. But this manifest is what allows you to define your certain tabs. So if you need to have additional tabs, if you have multiple portals and you'd like to make those all available inside of your Teams environment, then you're able to do that here. If you'd like to scale it down and only show Employee Center or portal inside of Teams and not use virtual agent, you can absolutely do that here. You can really mix and match this any way you want to see. So I'm going to go ahead and kick this back to Jeff to talk a little bit about scalability, and then we'll jump into showing you guys kind of how that stuff works. So, okay. Can you repeat that question, Jeff? Because for some reason, I'm not finding it.
We have multiple ServiceNow instances in our org and a single Teams tenant. How can I best enable my Teams team to know what to do for multiple instances?
There are multiple ServiceNow instances in our a single Teams tenant. Oh, how can I best enable my Microsoft Teams team to know what to do for multiple instances? Your Microsoft Teams team, really the crux on them is understanding first, loading the manifest, right? So they're going to load the manifest into Microsoft Teams, and then they'll have to set security for that application. And all that's defined out there on our doc sites. We have two different paths you can go down on the doc site. You can go down the pre-published path or the self-configured path. You just follow that self-configured path, and you can pass those instructions on to your Microsoft team.
Awesome. Thanks. There's also another question I thought may be applicable to folks. We have an aggressive chat retention policy that deletes chat history after a few days. How could that be supported? Kind of trailed off, but
unless you've designed a retention policy for your ServiceNow instance, the data is going to remain there depending on really how you're importing your messages. You got a couple different options when you're importing messages. You can auto import or manually import those messages. So as far as your Microsoft tenant is concerned, those chat policies are going to remain in place. If you don't have a retention policy designed in your ServiceNow instance, those are going to live in ServiceNow as long as you let them. So we'll get a little bit deeper into importing those messages and where they're stored, kind of thing, a little bit further in the demo if we have time.
All right, cool. Thanks. Let's go ahead and truck on for now. So on to scalability, right? This was what I think Richard finished up the manifest demo with. And at a high level, there are as many aspects to the integration, right? It's so flexible that you can start almost anywhere. And the determining factor could be your ServiceNow instance maturity in a given area that really should match your organization's priorities and goals. So Richard will be going through and demoing, I believe, all of the capabilities that are listed here and talking to how they can each be set up at a high level. Richard, I want to turn it back over to you because we've got the demo coming up. Is there anything you wanted to say here before we move on to the big show?
I'd just like to, add that scalability is important, right? We want you guys to be able to start where your organization wants to start. You see all these bits and pieces here. You don't have to start with all of them. You can start with one or any combination thereof. So, you can really slice and dice this according to your organization's maturity level and what you're ready to get out there to the end users. So with that, I'll go ahead and take over control and we'll go through these features. And we're going to start right here. We are logged in as Joe employee, and you guys might have a familiar view here of the Employee Center. Now we are inside of Microsoft Teams inside of the web browser. It's important to keep in mind that your experience is going to be the same whether you're on the web browser, the desktop app, and even the mobile app as well. So we have embedded Employee Center or your service portal right here inside of Teams. If your organization wants to start really slow and just kind of start getting this out there as a standalone app inside of Teams, you can do so with just Employee Center if you like. It comes with all the same form, fit, and functionality that you've already enabled for your portal or Employee Center. And you can complete all the same requests or tasks inside of here that you could if it was in a separate tab living in your browser. So, you got all the content here, all the same content. One thing you might notice is there's no chat bubble down here on the right. We have moved that chat over to its own tab on the chat tab. So with that, there's several things you could do with virtual agent, and we're trying to keep this a little bit slim because we don't have a whole lot of time today to break every little aspect down, but you do have the capability of also sending and receiving notifications inside of Teams. So that allows you to reduce that little bit of noise there. I did open up Beth Agent. She's looking at one of Joe's tickets, and she's going to post a comment out to Joe saying, hey, we need some help. Can you provide some more information here? You might have seen an update over here on Joe's ServiceNow for Teams application. We got a notification. Hey, can you provide more information? We got an opportunity to view the ticket here. So clicking on this button can be configured to open up a new tab or also open up directly inside of Teams. And we'll see that in just a few minutes as a pop-up. But we could also send a reply. Now, this type of card we like to call an actionable notification. Actionable notifications allow you to do just that and take actions on records inside of ServiceNow. This is an ITSM Pro feature, so you can utilize this integration with ITSM Standard. However, actionable notifications, taking actions on records like this does require Pro licensing for ITSM or HRSD. With that, you can also send, just static notifications where they can't take actions. And you could also send notifications to channels utilizing webhooks as well. We'll look at that a little bit later when we look at Flow Designer at the end of the demo. So we're going to go ahead and send this off to Beth. And it's going to say, I can provide you more information. I can. So we can see that updated instantly. There's no lag or wait behind the integration. It's going to happen instantaneously. So utilizing notifications, reducing that noise. So we can send all sorts of other notifications such as incident resolution, incident close. Same thing with requests, that your request has been approved. We can utilize actionable notifications to send approvals to managers or approvers, on their mobile device or on their desktop application. And they can approve those items right here inside of Teams as well. So those actionable notifications are very expandable, utilizing the spokes inside of ServiceNow. And we'll get a little bit, like I said, further into that with Flow Designer at the end of the demo. Next up, you can enable your users to help self-service themselves. Now, with these ITSM standard or HRSD standard, you do have the capability of utilizing promoted topics. And promoted topics are engaged by typing hi with the bot. Now, these 4 items are what we call promoted topics. With the Tokyo, starting with Tokyo release, you can have up to 6 buttons here. Any more than 6 promoted topics is going to show as a dropdown. With pro licensing and higher, you can utilize what we call natural language understanding. With that, a user can just come in and type, "My laptop is broken." And then natural language understanding will break that phrase up into utterances and utilize those utterances to find the right virtual agent topic for us. Now, Joe's experiencing a broken laptop. He typed in that, "My laptop is broken," and he needs some help with those hardware issues. Now, these VA topics are configurable by your teams. First thing we got here is that incident deflection. We want to show those knowledge articles, those catalog items that might deflect this without a ticket. We're going to say, "I'm all set here," and go down that unhappy path and say, "Hey," and really help us out. Now we've done that, we want to go ahead and open up an IT ticket, and the system is going to say, "Hey, you got a couple of computers assigned to you. Which one are you having problems with?" I'm going to pick that Joe one. And it's going to come back with, "Hey, I got your universal request submitted." Now, if your organization is not using universal request, it will just create that incident. But we see we got our ticket created there, and we also get a confirmation, "Hey, is there anything else we can help you with?" Again, these are customizable by your teams, so you can include some of this functionality, or you can introduce your own. Now, you might have seen another card, another notification popped up here. That's how we got that ticket created, and it looks like it got assigned to somebody, so it's in progress. So something your team wants to do when you implement this is review your notifications. This will add a layer of notifications to your ServiceNow instance for Microsoft Teams. So it is spelled out in the ServiceNow documentation that you should sit down and review notifications to make sure you're not blowing people up in email and on Teams as well. So we want to make sure we're turning those on and off, and we're not blowing people up. So our conversation has ended there. We got that created. We can go view our incident. And here's that functionality I was talking about. You can have that show as a pop-up right inside of Teams. Again, you get that same form, fit, and functionality you've already enabled for your end users. No additional configuration is required. All right. Next up, you can grow a little bit mature with live agent chat. Now, Joe is in a hurry, and he's just going to come in here and type live agent, and he's going to hit go. And you would like help with live agent support, is that right? Yes, please. I want to talk to somebody. I don't want to wait. You see our notification here, our approximate wait time, opportunity to cancel chat. We got Beth Agent right over here. She sees that chat come in, and she's going to go ahead and accept it. Get that chat accepted. Now we're inside of a chat with Joe. We got Beth inside of the service operations workspace. We got Joe inside of Teams, and we can conversate back and forth, figure out what's going on with each other, figure out what Joe's problem is here. We also have additional quick action that can help you solve your problem. Let's say chat is really slow. You say, "Hey, Joe, can I call you right away?" We can call Joe right inside of Microsoft Teams. Another great feature about this is autopilot. Autopilot allows you to send people off with virtual agent to help themselves with a little bit of oversight from the agent. So we can, for sake of time and argument, we could say that, "Hey, Joe, he's having some email issues. Let's get him on autopilot to see if he can help himself a little bit." So we can see that the chat locks up. It says, "Hey, we're on autopilot." Beth has the opportunity to turn that on. Joe over here can see that Beth has enabled the virtual agent to help us complete this. And so Joe can get to answering questions. When you can't send email, get a different type of incident deflection here where we see, hey, a few things you can try. We can say, hey, did any of this work for you? Just as that's great. That worked for me. I got that solved. Joe is able to help himself with a little bit of nudge from Beth there to get through his problem. So there's a couple different ways Beth can end her chat here, end chat, closing the tab, or Joe can just simply say goodbye. Now there is timeout messaging included in this integration as well. So if a user steps away from their desk, there's a couple things you can do. Is you can end the conversation. You can send a message that says, "Hey, are you still here?" Or you can send a message, warning them that their session is going to time out in a certain amount of time. So with that, Joe has done his job and Beth has a little bit of work to do. So she's going to go ahead and jump into an incident here where we have Jeff employee now, Joe employee. Now, we want to make sure that we're communicating with Joe, and if we want to contact him, we could actually do that directly from our collaborate tab here inside of the service operations workspace. Now we can start a Teams chat directly with Joe. We can also utilize the more options to include more people inside of this chat. So with that, we'll get this to load up here. A couple cool things here is we got our recommended participants. You can also utilize entire groups. So you don't have to put in person by person. You can say, hey, I need the whole service desk. And for this, we're just going to include Joe. You can also see Joe's status in Microsoft Teams. Again, this is his Microsoft Teams status, so we can see if he's busy, out of office, in a meeting, those type of things. It's not his ServiceNow status. It's his Microsoft Teams status. So we can see he's available in Microsoft Teams. And we have some additional chat options here. We can change our title, our opening message. We can decide which client we want it to open up in. We'll go ahead and get that opened up and start talking with Jeff or Joe here real quick. Keep saying Jeff because he's my
I'm super popular in this.
I
demo,
know,
man.
it's just a popular name. Might have heard a ding there in the background that says, hey, Jeff wants to talk. Oh, I'm sorry, I got my bar up there and get it moved. So, hey, Beth wants to talk. We can say hi to Beth, and then we can say hi back to Joe. And we can go back and forth. And we've had that conversation with Joe. We want to make sure that this is a system of record, right? The integration does automatically import these conversations every 30 minutes. You can turn that off and utilize a manual import feature. Now, the manual import feature is available even if you have the automatic feature turned on, but you will get a messaging here for the current chats that it's on auto import, and it'll automatically import those. But with this manual import feature, you also have the capability of including other records as well. And my internet seems to be taking sweet time today, so if I'm breaking up, I apologize, but we're loading in here. There we go. So we can see any chats related to this record. So this is the conversation we just had a couple seconds ago. We are able to select certain messages. So if we don't want to include something in our additional comments, we can also choose to import that as work notes. We have the availability to filter these messages. So we can say imported messages, ones we haven't imported yet. We can also open up this conversation right in Teams, or we can filter down by participants if you have multiple participants. So not only can we do anything related to this record, so if we have a request tied to this incident, problem, a change that might have some Microsoft Teams chats associated with it, we can bring those in as well. We also have the capability of bringing in chats for any chat we might be privy to already. So we can see a previous chat between Beth and Joe. There's nothing here. We also got some war room chats that might have something in them. I don't have anything current, or Beth doesn't have anything current to look at, but you can import those messages as well. So I know kind of quick, fast, and dirty on the incident management part, but there is a lot of functionality here for your teams to utilize. And again, it's all about how you want to do that and how you want to deploy to your teams. You could utilize the fulfiller functionalities first and minimize that, utilize notifications, employee center. There's many ways to do this. The last aspect of the ServiceNow for Teams application is the integration with major incident management. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to bring out Diego. Now, Diego is our major incident manager, and he's here inside of the major incident workbench. And we're already on a major incident. Our employee payroll services application server is down. The first point of integration is on the communicate tab. And the communicate tab allows us to enable in-mass communications to our users. Now, I've already composed a task to set out one of those communications. So we'll go ahead and compose that. And we're going to say this system is down. Oh, 2 W's are there, down, please wait, exclamation point. So we're going to go ahead and send that off. And then we'll see our notification over here on Joe's ServiceNow for Teams app is where we get that notification. Employee payroll application server is down and our messaging, the system is down, please wait. Now we can click on view tails for Joe because he's an end user. He doesn't have any roles. He's not going to be able to see any information about the ticket. He didn't open it. He's not the requested for on there. So he's not going to be able to see anything, but a message sent to a fulfiller, they would be able to open that ticket. Now you can create a custom card to modify how that button shows or if it shows. But currently out of the box, we don't have a configuration for that. It would be a customization to control that button, but that capability is there. Next up, we have our Collaborate tab. Collaborate tab is really cool because it'll allow us to initiate a conference call directly from our ServiceNow instance and also manage that call. Now, I've already created the task for this just to help save us a little bit of time. So we're going to make sure we dump all our recommended people over there. We can see our conference bridge as Microsoft Teams and modify the title or include a brief message to start. Now I'm going to hit start on this. You might hear a bunch of ringing out here on my computer. I'm going to try and quiet that down as much as I can, but I'm going to make sure that you guys see what's going on. So we're going to go ahead and hit start. And we're going to pop out Joe here. We're also going to pop out Beth. And I think I got Beth on Teams. I do. So we can see Beth is ringing down here. Now, if they're got Teams on a mobile device, they're going to get their mobile device ringing too, guys. So this isn't just limited to the browser or desktop app. Again, mobile, it's going to call their mobile device all the same. All right, we got that guy shut down. Let's go ahead and get Joe in there and get Joe started. All right, we got Joe in there. We got Beth Agent in there. And last and certainly not least, we got Diego. Now we're going to get him started, but let me talk about the workbench really quick and what we can see here. So we can see we got some participants. We got Jeff and Beth, and oh, Diego didn't sign in Teams yet. So
much to cover.
I know, all right. Continue on browser. Cancel. Running short on time here, Diego. Let's go. All right. So we can see we have the capability to you cannot unmute people, but you can mute people. That's just not a functionality of Microsoft Teams to allow you to unmute people. So, but it does allow you to mute people if they are unmuted. And we'll get Diego in there really quick and get everybody in there. Also, we can add participants. So if somebody's, we forgot to add somebody, we could find a user. We could also group. We could also send an email to external vendors to join the call as well. We can also, if people didn't answer, so we got Annie Approver over here. She didn't join the call. So we can click on the plus sign and it's going to call her again to get her to join the call. So we can keep blowing people up. Out here on the meeting itself, we have added what we call the ServiceNow meeting extensibility application. What this does is bring those tickets of the incident details right into the Teams meeting. And we've also brought in those communication tasks as well. So we can also monitor what tasks are being completed inside of the meeting without having to navigate back to the workbench. So we kind of got a lot there. I'm going to go ahead and kick everybody out of here. And I got about 2 minutes left. I do want to talk about Flow Designer real quick, Jeff, before I toss it back to you.
Okay.
So let's hop over there real quick. And this is really going back to that scalability. Now we're looking at something very simple here. What this is Flow Designer, and we've set this up to trigger somebody to refill the coffee maker. And so the condition here is when an incident is created, the assignment group is sales and marketing. Somebody put the word coffee in short description. What we're going to do is it waits for a couple seconds, but we're going to post a message to a Teams channel in here. So when we do that, we get that messaging right inside that Teams channel, so we can send, utilizing webhooks, of course, we utilize that webhook URL, but we can send a message directly to Teams. Not only that, but this integration comes with a host of spokes. We'll see, we got a bunch of them out here that we can use. So depending on what your organization needs, there's quite a few Microsoft integrations. We got over 30 out there on the ServiceNow store, but we can utilize the Teams communication to bring those conference calls directly into our custom processes or our custom maps. We can use also, posting a message, posting change incident problem details. There's a whole host of things you can do with these spokes. You can bring all this functionality again into your custom applications or your custom processes, and also extend this functionality to other task tables that you'd like to utilize it on. So it's not limited to ITSM or incident. You could really expand this anywhere you like, and also deploy it in a way that's scalable for your team. So that's the end of my time today. I'm going to go ahead and kick it back to you, Jeff. Thanks a bunch, guys.
Hey, Richard, that was amazing. Thank you. All right, let me get my presentation back up and going. And we have a couple more things to do, folks, so please bear with us. And we have a lot of questions to get to. Richard, if you could please check that out. I've also made several notes. And here we go. All right. Hopefully that looks correct. So, Richard, thanks a lot. You went through a boatload of functionality there. So I've got to put up another poll question for folks, and I'm going to launch this. All right. Poll number 2. Based on what you know today, based on what you've seen Richard just demonstrate, what do you see as a viable path for your organization to do next and or first to start with your ServiceNow and Microsoft Teams deployment? Please take a couple moments to let us know.
And it's multiple choice, so feel free to select multiple.
Indeed. Yes, thanks. That's right. Richard, this was amazing. So one of the questions I was really hoping that you could speak to first was around, in order to test the integration in a lower environment, do you need to use the self-configured app, or is there any plan to allow, or any way to allow the pre-published app to first deploy in a lower environment for testing before moving it on to prod?
So this is a little bit of a tricky question because different organizations have different requirements or different development rules. Some organizations deploy this directly into production to test and utilize those global policies from their Microsoft tenant to restrict access to certain groups for testing and those type of things. That tends to be the simplest path, is utilizing those Microsoft policies, utilizing ServiceNow security to restrict it to a small subset of groups. However, that doesn't work for every organization. What we typically recommend, if you need to utilize a lower environment, is to go ahead and to connect to production with that environment. Again, restricting the application, utilizing global policies. And then that allows you to get the whole field there. And then what you can do when you decide to move to prod, it's very simple. When you go to prod, you can do the same process of the pre-published app, and it's going to ask you, hey, do you want to switch the connection? When you click that button, it's going to say, hey, do you want to switch the connection from dev to prod? And you'll just click yes, and it's going to handle the rest of that for you. Hope that helps. What else do we got here? Can you start a conference? Also initiate an outbound notification, SMS, and voice. Yeah, so it's really just dependent on how your ServiceNow system is set up. We're not integrated with the Azure communication pipeline at current. That API does exist. The Azure communication pipeline is the underlying communication tunnel for Azure Teams phone calls. Once we see that integration become fruitful, this is a forward-looking statement. Early 2024 is what we're aiming for on that. We will be able to conduct SMS and voice calls directly through that Azure communications with the proper Microsoft licensings for Teams phone.
Thanks, Richard.
Yeah, if you're integrated with Twilio or something else, you could still utilize that functionality as you currently do as well.
Hey, Richard, real quick, folks, I appreciate everybody who's responded to the poll. Just want to close out on this, that we've got a pretty broad spread in terms of people who have responded. It looks like, 36% are interested in integrating a portal, employee center or a portal, almost half around incident notifications, a third for actionable notifications, almost half, 45% for using virtual agent, a third for live agent transfer, half for major incident management. I've heard a lot of that, and almost 20% for flow designer and spokes. So that's a pretty good spread of functionality, a lot of things to do. So I really appreciate everybody responding to that. And now let's properly move into, we've got some resources. This will be included in the deck that we'll post here shortly after the call. And I'll leave it here while we continue to speak to some Q&A. And Richard, one of the questions I was hoping we could touch on next, because I'm realizing I had a question myself. Do you need a notify license to do major incident management? This customer uses X Matters for on-call schedules. And my initial thought was you don't need a notify subscription or license. Can you confirm that?
So the term notify gets a little bit confusing when we're talking ServiceNow, because there is a separate product not related to ServiceNow that's called Notify. It's a totally separate product, not related to ServiceNow. ServiceNow just calls that communication hub Notify. And what Notify is where these omni channels connect to. So if you had a Twilio integration, it connects to Notify. You have the Microsoft Teams integration, it connects to Notify. So think of Notify as that kind of hub that these communication channels connect to inside of ServiceNow. There's no separate licensing for that.
And so Teams itself would be one of those services, right?
That's correct. Yep.
Yeah,
It connects to the Notify app in Teams. So
right on. Okay, a couple other ones if we could go through. There's a request around the chat imports. A couple of things came in right at that point. One question was, are these chats encrypted? And the other one was, how long is the import of Teams chat available?
Okay, so kind of ties it all together. So there's another chat out there about the import in native US. So the baseline, with the baseline integration, it does come with the auto imported chat. Now those chats auto import every 30 minutes. So at least you had a question about the native UI and it didn't import. It doesn't import right away. It does take 30 minutes. If you use the manual import, you should be able to get that to import right away. So it does take about 30 minutes for that to come in. What was the other part of that question, Jeff?
Are the chats encrypted?
That is a great question. ServiceNow technology allows for encryption in the instance, in the load balancer, and back out the other way. So it will utilize the ServiceNow encryption. There's no additional encryption on top of it, though, unless you're utilizing, data at rest encryption, hardware encryption, those type of things. So different ways to kind of cut the cat there, but yes, the data is secure while traveling through rest.
All right. And then finally, how long is the import of the Teams chat available? I presume that is as long as the chat is present.
Yeah, so that would depend on your Microsoft retention policy. So if we had somebody state that they had one that deletes chats after a few days, that's pretty aggressive. If you have a policy that's removing those chats from your Microsoft tenant, you're not going to be able to bring those in once they're deleted, right? So we want to make sure that you're importing before your Microsoft retention policy jumps in. Now, ServiceNow doesn't have any built-in retention policies, so that's something you would have to add to your ServiceNow instance in order to have a retention policy inside of ServiceNow. So if you've imported it into ServiceNow, it's going to live there as long as you tell it to.
Cool, thanks. So I don't know if you've seen any questions. There's still a lot here, folks. So hopefully we can get to this in the next 5 or 6 minutes. One from Elsie. Can you please demo on the native UI and not VA? Is that an option? We've tried it before and it does not import the team's conversation in the work notes or incident activity. Yeah,
and it should. I kind of touched on that a little bit. If you didn't wait 30 minutes for it to auto import, gotcha. That could be the issue, or there might be some underlying technical issue that you're having if you're trying to use the manual import. I would definitely suggest you put in a ticket if you feel that there's a problem there.
Okay, thanks. There's another question here around, are there plans to make VA design or show card use adaptive cards in MS Teams? We've noticed when using these in our topics, they don't display all that great on the team side.
As far as adaptive cards go, you can customize the actions to utilize different card types from Microsoft. So Microsoft does have available different card types. It'd be a customization to utilize additional card types or change the format and layout. Forward-looking statement, we hope to enhance the functionality of this to be more fluid and be able to almost create cards on the fly. So that's something we do play with in-house at ServiceNow. We do utilize this integration in-house at ServiceNow. You could only imagine ours is a little bit more extensive before we release that functionality to the ether, but forward-looking statement, we're getting there to make it so you can utilize any of the card types you'd like to do in your communications with teams.
Awesome. Let's see here. Can we start a conference also initiating outbound notification? Okay, you answered that. Did we get through all of these? That might be it.
Chris threw out there, encryption is also at the transport layer to the Graph API. Yes, Chris, thank you very much for throwing that in there. Appreciate it.
Cool. All right. I don't see any other questions. Let me just double check the chat here. I think somebody had to drop. Oh, we put some additional resources in here. Folks, thank you so much. Richard, any other comments before we close? I think we were right at 2 minutes till.
No, the only thing I'd like to add, this allows you to bring ServiceNow right to your employees, embed it right inside of Teams. It limits that clicking around, opening up a browser, or not even utilizing Teams and picking up the phone. If you got an organization that lives and operates inside of Teams, really this integration is no-brainer. Again, wherever you want to start, right? Just employee center out there, or just giving them the ability to look up tickets or create an incident. You can start anywhere. And like I said, if your organization is already, deep into Teams, It's a really no-brainer. You can put it right at their fingertips and hopefully drive a little bit more self-service.
Well said. Well said. Yeah, this is absolutely designed to increase efficiency and provide value for these enterprise applications, these platforms that are already a huge investment for our customers. So thanks, Richard, for that. Thanks, everybody, for sticking with us for this call. Really useful time. Again, look for the follow-up coming from the Live on ServiceNow community for the recording. We'll answer the questions that we didn't actually get to today. And look forward to seeing you on the next one. We've got a series of these calls scheduled throughout the balance of the summer and through the year. So hope you can continue to join us, and we'll continue to get into more depth on how you can get started and drive value with ServiceNow inside of Teams. Thank you so much. Bye for now.